Hi, I'm Ralph, and I'm a beverage and tea specialist. I like working with my hands and creating something out of it. I actually started with coffee, specialty coffee. But prior to that, I was really a corporate guy, and then left corporate, wanted to do something different. Wanted to do something else. And then it was also at the height of the specialty coffee industry. My friend has started roasting his own beans, and so I thought, well, might as well try. The only reason why I got really into coffee was because of him. And at the same time, he liked me doing R&D with him mainly because I don't really get overly caffeinated, and that's it. And then one thing led to the other. I got hired and became a coffee guy for a coffee chain, but I really didn't stay with coffee mainly because there are a lot of people already doing coffee, and at the same time I feel like I was also still looking for something else. But I think what it really taught me was that there is something that I could actually be creative about, and that is through identifying flavors. And then I thought, hey, you know what? I've always loved tea, and maybe this is something that I should be focusing more on. And so here I am, just trying to make people love tea and see the good things about the art of making tea and at the same time drinking tea. Scientifically, basically, tea is a leaf. Uh, it came from the plant called Camellia sinensis, but unfortunately, we don't grow it here, at least yet. Maybe someday, right? But so tea originated from China, or at least was first discovered in China. I've always had tea in my life. I grew up with tea, mainly because my father's side is Chinese and my grandma was from mainland China. So we've always had tea at home. On the other hand, she actually banned me from drinking coffee because she thought it would stunt my growth. So she told me, why not just drink tea? Lo and behold, so she would be brewing tea for herself, make a pot for herself, until one day she'd had to make two pots now. Because one is for her and then the other one is for me. And I think I was about 5 years old at that time. So connecting to what I just said about coffee, I realized, you know what? I think I really like tea more than coffee. And at the same time, there are a lot about tea that is one, not a lot of people understand. At the same time, there is something about tea that is really quite magical, and that for me is the part where it helps me slow down. I've mentioned also that I like creating with my hands. I play music. I I make my own tea wares, and then there's a lot more that is if you think about it, like just being creative. I couldn't say that I am a musician. I can't say I'm a photographer or I like writing, but it's really just general creating stuff. And to me, tea helps me make sense with everything that I do. And mainly that's because it helps me slow down, think why I do what I do.
The supermarket tea and your tea, what's the difference? How did you develop the passion there?
Tea bags or the tea that's found inside tea bags are essentially loose leaves that are just grounded, and so they are in powder form. So in a sense, it's not probably the purest, if there's such a thing, right? So the difference with the tea that I normally brew are loose leaves. Um, and the good thing about that is tea is the flavors of tea are not really like in your face kind of flavors. And I think there's magic in that part wherein you get to taste the subtleties of teas. And to me, if you can taste subtle notes, subtle things like that, and apply that with, let's say, with life or looking at a particular color, maybe red is not just red. Maybe there are shades of red as we know it, right? So I think applying that to the things that you come across with, the experiences that you come across with, you realize it's not just that. There is definitely more to that. So whenever I sip a tea or brew a tea, I try to think about what is there that I'm not tasting, or what is there that I am actually tasting? Because two of those things actually do make sense if you put them together. Mastering the art of tea, I think, is very subjective. Unlike with, for example, you have wine sommelier. Recently, there have been some tea mastery schools which actually cost a fortune. But at the same time, when I think about how people first drank their tea, I don't think they were really like taught, you do this, you do that, you add this to that, which is not bad. Like before, the discipline of specialty coffee is precision. You measure everything. You measure the grams of beans, the volume of water you put into that, the grind size, and all those things, which are really good. But at the same time, I feel like being too rigid about those things kind of make you forget that you have your own inner instincts. So going back, when people started drinking their tea, I wonder if they were like counting how many leaves do I put in this particular size of pot. I feel like when they were doing it, it's really just more about how do I want my tea. Applying that with doing life, you have to know what you want for yourself. And I can see a lot of people, and even me in most cases, like I just go about it and really not really knowing what do I really want out of this? Aside from making me think and slow down, I also think it helps you develop your own reasons. It might not be reasonable for someone, but if it's reasonable for you, then why not? I think the most scientific way to describe it is that tea also contains caffeine, similar with coffee, right? But the difference between the caffeine and the caffeine from coffee is that tea contains this amino acid that is called L-theanine. And what L-theanine does to your body is that it regulates the release of caffeine. Therefore, your alertness is actually sustained. It is timed release, unlike with, let's say, having a sugar rush or something where it just really just spikes, and then you feel so energetic, alert, and high. But the downside of that is you feel like a crash, and then suddenly that's it, right? So with tea is that it is regulated, so you get, I would say, in a sense that's probably healthier. And yeah, because I've had coffee crashes a lot of times, and then you just kind of feel wasted after that. First and foremost, I don't think you can drink tea in a hurried fashion. It's either you are in that mental space or you deliberately want to get into that mental space or not. I mean, we're not talking about like the convenience store tea or milk tea at that, but for example, with tea ceremony, it's very deliberate. Process wise, you warm the cup, you warm the things that you will be using. Whereas maybe like with just dipping a tea bag, you just probably get a cup, get the hot water, dip it in, and that's it. But with tea ceremony, you warm everything and then kind of just appreciate the tea that you will be making. There is a certain range of temperature that you use with different kinds of tea. Like with black tea, you kind of use high temperature. But with green tea, white tea, you use the lower temperature, meaning about 80 to 85. By high, I mean 95 to 100. Um, so you kind of think about those things. And so for me, whenever I think about those things, I can't help but, try to um, try to geek out on those things. Normally, when I host tea ceremonies, and again, I mean, I'm not a tea master or something, but I just really want people to love tea. I start with reading them something, and then just to get to the headspace and the environment that we want to be at. And then afterwards, it's really just a very quiet process. It's really more about observing hand gestures, listening to the trickling down of the water. And to me, that is, it's very widely used, but it's Zen.
Then you've mentioned before also your biking. Do you think is there a connection between tea, biking, Zen, everything?
I think, yeah, for sure. Because there's no one thing that just leads to another thing. I don't think life is that straightforward. So I guess with biking, to me, it also aids with slowing down. Like, you can't really like go 60 kilometers per hour. Probably the fastest you'd go is 50 or something like that. And then I purposefully build my bikes not to go fast so that I could like really just enjoy, you know, the pollution.
Was it hard entering this market?
Definitely. And there are probably, I mean, if I'm just probably about the bottom line, there are probably a lot of ways to do that. And like I said, if I have probably stayed in the corporate, I mean, I don't know what I'll be doing now, But then I guess that only goes to show that more than earning a profit or earning as much, it just probably goes second or maybe third in terms of priority list. So what really got us rolling was when we started brewing our own masala chai concentrate. That is now known as Jacob's Well Chai. I think for some people they already recognize that, but we're still such a small company, and like I said, small company in a niche market. I mean, just multiply all those things together and just see where you are in the picture, and that's really really small, but it is good because you kind of enjoy the process. I remember when we first started brewing chai, it was actually from our old coffee shop that me and my sister built together, like the furniture, the design, interiors, and everything. Again, it was the height of specialty coffee. It was a three-floor apartment. First floor was the coffee shop, and then I live on the third floor. It was a very personal coffee shop. Our dad would always hang out. However, we realized that we couldn't actually make our dad drink our coffee. Maybe our coffee was that bad. That's just kidding. But he just doesn't enjoy coffee. So we thought, how unfortunate is that? Like our own dad couldn't really fully enjoy this thing that we've built, right? So we said, hey, why don't we look for something that we want to do ourselves and not just get something out of the grocery and then boom, we have a new drink for dad. At the same time, of course, we want something healthy for him. And then I remember growing up and really liking drinking masala chai. So we thought, hey, is there a way we could make our own masala chai? So upon research, which is not really that hard, Google, we eventually made our own chai, but we really didn't intend to put it in the menu. It was really something that we call as dad's drink until some of my friends who actually owns a coffee shop said, "Hey, what is your dad drinking? I mean, can we try that?" And we're like, no, it's nothing. It's just something that we made. I don't think it's any good anyway. And then after much encouragement, he said, it's actually my best friend. He said, hey, come on. Can I just try? And then when he tried it, he said, hey, is this chai? I said, yeah. And then he said, if you can bottle it up, maybe I can ask some of my friends. He's already roasting coffee beans, so he definitely already has an environment or a network of coffee shops, right? I'm gonna help you get into these shops. So we bottled it, delivered our first batch, and then I remember not being able to sleep that night because I was waiting for a complaint or something. Thankfully, there were no complaints. But I remember like having series of that, several deliveries upon deliveries, and really just being so nervous each time my phone would ring and say like, "Hey, can you take a look at this particular batch or something like that?" So, um, basically, it's how we started with Jacob's Well Chai. We were supposed to actually partner with that, but then he said, "Hey, you know what? Just go do it." And I remember like I wouldn't have probably done it if not for his encouragement. So yeah, I'm so thankful for that. Like I said, I mean, everything is personal. It's really just very sentimental to me because we're probably at the season of our friendship where we don't get to talk as much anymore. And if there's actually a way for me to remind him how how thankful I am for doing that or for encouraging me. I mean, I know he looks up to me in a lot of ways, but I don't think he knows how much of those strength or the things that I've done is actually because of I know that he's there for me because and I regret this so much. There was one time that he needed me and I wasn't there. And I can never talk about Jacob's Way without talking about him. And I hope that he knows that. I'd like to say it's really more of the process because I feel like it's probably more that you actually are more appreciative that way than focusing on the struggles. And I mean, it's good, like, coming on top of your struggles. You are grateful you were able to come out on top of come out on top of it. But I feel like when you reverse the process and start with the process in itself, it then becomes, regardless, or I mean, whether or not you actually come out on top of it, you already start with being grateful and being appreciative. Because, for example, you weren't able to come out on top of the struggle, then what? I mean, are you then less appreciative, or So it's those things to me that you reverse the process, look at things on a different angles. um so yeah.
So yeah, talking about like not only the struggle but like the purpose now.
Yeah.
What like
mm.
what is your purpose in
uh well, aside from just being able to create, which is such a blessing, which something I don't people which is something I don't think a lot of people really pay attention to. Because the truth is, I never thought that I am a creative person until I started making drinks, until I started mixing, until I started with coffee. And to me, those were the processes that if I look back, I wouldn't be here if not for those things, regardless if it's a good experience or not. Like I said, there's not one thing that just leads to one thing. I mean, it's a combination of many things. I'm so thankful for the fact that I have discovered how I could actually create. And being creative is not just about, because when we were growing up, like, there are painters, there are musicians, there are writers. But if you are any, I mean, there's a lot more, right? But if you actually don't fall under that, what then you're just probably not an artist or not a creator. But now that creating beverage is creating, or is being an artist. Brewing tea is also being an artist. I mean, there are a lot of things that that I feel like if you are like always going fast paced, you kind of miss out and realize that, hey, my life isn't so bad.
what do you or how do you define art?
Art. Art is art to me is more than the output, is probably what it does to you. I know some would argue, like, you have to have something to show for, and then Now and then I tell you what's an art and what's not art, right? What's a good art and what's a bad art, right? But to me, I mean, what it does to me, uh, with being deliberate about the way I pour drinks, because I could just really like pour it like that and that's it. But I'd want to pour it like this. Art to me is a dance that you dance with yourself. It's a dance that only you know the tune of. It's a dance where, regardless if anyone is dancing with you, you just still keep doing it. Well, to me, it's nothing is ever wasted. A good cup of tea, a bad cup of tea. I mean, all of it. It's it's the good and the bad, the ugly and the beautiful. And I think that what makes life very interesting, the ironies. Because how boring would it be, like, if I'm only just about the good and the good and the good, right? So, yeah, nothing's ever wasted, nothing's ever lost. Embrace everything. It's the good and the bad.